And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore podcast, where we never sit out. We're your hosts, Matthew and Chris Dawson. What is going on? C to the D. Week 5 in the books. A lot. We figured out a lot of stuff about some teams, and I feel like I'm more confused about some other teams. Well, what was your experience this week watching football?
I mean, we made it to October. Congratulations, fellas. We are through September, right? You made it through the first 5 weeks of the year. September felt long, very long for a lot of teams, longer for some others. If you're South Carolina, you're excited about getting to October. Absolutely. But yeah, I think again, another week you learn more. Another week you have a continuous amount of questions. That's why I'm glad they don't do college football playoff rankings until a couple weeks, because you really don't know until you get a couple games into conference play, and you can really start forming like really, really good judgments on teams. But obviously, people like you and I, Matthew, we love to talk about college football. We're here to talk about it anyways. There's still some conclusions you can draw, absolutely, and that's what we're here to talk about.
100%. As a recap for like our picks this week, uh, look, I'm gonna preface. I'm an SEC fan, but I have no idea what's going on in the SEC. 0-4 picking ATS for me in the SEC, and this is not new. This is not new. Now I called the Florida Tennessee update or upset, but other than that, I've been missing, dude. And I don't think I'm alone in that, because this is a really confusing conference right now. I don't know. I who's good? Is anyone good? I don't. I don't. I
Week to
don't know.
week, it's week to week.
It's week to week. It's week to week. I
It's my
mean, we
damn
talk about that
fantasy
in
team,
college.
man.
In college football, it is always week to week, right? But you on the year, look, ATS this week, he went 3-6. I caught up to you, which is kind of nice.
Okay.
But in terms of winners, dude, you were pumping out, picking winners. 7-2 week for you, 31-8 on the year, and 80% pick percentage. Now some of these lines have been pretty big, right? But in general, you've been kind of nailing some of these on the nose. How do you feel? Do you feel like you're on point? You feel like you got a good pulse of what's going on?
I mean, no. To be honest, no. Like I really don't. I mean, obviously, like Notre Dame, for instance, like I took Duke to cover, and like at the end, looking back, I felt better about my Duke pick to cover, and that didn't hit, and then Notre Dame hit, actually won. But yeah, and then I'll talk about this real quick. I want to give myself a little bit of slack here. If can't We did the show on Wednesday. We recorded on Wednesday, post on Thursday. If Kansas had announced that Jalen Daniels is not going to play, obviously I think everybody and their mom would have been on Texas, right? So, and that's what I ended up playing out as. But yeah, I think another week, Texas A&M got a big time win for you. I called Arkansas covering. I know you did too. They look good, right? They got a big test this week, obviously with Bama coming in town. A Bama team that's getting better, every week since, well, I guess the past 2 weeks. And that Ole Miss win, the defensive win, obviously looks even better nowadays with the 700 yards they put up against LSU. Now I get LSU's defense is literally a turnpike right now. Anyways, going through. I think they missed 30 tackles or something like that, which is crazy. But yeah, I'm ready to get back into this. But yeah,
100%. Notable 5-0 teams: Kentucky, Missouri,
mm-hmm.
Air Force.
Yeah,
Yeah, dude.
yeah,
And
yeah.
every week I drafted them in my fantasy. I drafted their defensive fantasy, right? Just it's a value play, right? Because it's a shorter game with those guys, right? They play in the Mountain West, which maybe isn't your best competition, but they've looked nothing short of impressive this season. They've been awesome. Marshall's a nice 4-0. They get picked up a nice win against Old Dominion. Of course, Michigan, Georgia's undefeated, Ohio State, but Maryland now Indiana, maybe not your greatest team, but they did more than what they needed to do. Talia Tagovailoa throws for 5 touchdowns. They looked really, really good there. Maryland is, I don't think, is it time to start? It's time to start looking at Maryland a little bit differently right now.
No, and it's not
Duh.
even a fault. It's not even a fault to that as their own. The problem is everybody knows, like the elephant in the room is their schedule that remains. It's Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan. So it doesn't matter if you're 5-0. You're gonna have 3 losses added onto it at the end of the day. So they're not gonna get the respect that they probably do deserve, and they'll show somebody in the bowl game when it comes to that they're pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not on a level to compete with those guys. I mean, who knows? College football upsets happen all the time. They could pull out one of those games, but I won't go into any of those games expecting Maryland to really, really compete. Real quick, I do want to give a shout out to Neil Brown's West Virginia Mountaineers. They're 4-1. They're 4-1. They beat the
Wow.
odds, right? What's going on? Only lost, if you remember, week 1 to Penn State. Obviously, that happened, and you just got to be impressed with Western. That was at Penn State, by the way, right? That was in Happy Valley. And they have, looking ahead at their schedule, other than Oklahoma, right? That's November 11th at Oklahoma. They're playing a bunch of bottom feeders right now in the Big 12. Now, it's not to slight any of those teams. BYU is playing some good football. Cincinnati can test anybody with their defense. Baylor somehow picked up a win against UCF. But yeah, their schedule is as follows. You got at Houston, Oklahoma State, at UCF, BYU, at Oklahoma, which we talked about, Cincinnati, and at Baylor to close the year. That is a very, very workable schedule in the Big Ten in terms of missing out on a ton of top heavy teams like Texas, like Kansas State, like Kansas, right? I mean, that's about as good as you can wish for if you're Neil Brown and a West Virginia fan right now, a guy that seems to be in the driver's position, right? For a guy that was on the hot seat, very, very hot seat. Good for him, man. We're so happy about that. I know we're so happy about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another 5-0 team that I want to talk about, James Madison, playing inspiring football right now. They're clear favorites to win the Sun Belt right now. They're just massacring teams. Now, I get it. It was a one-possession game, win against South Alabama. I know that South Alabama team is 2-3, but I still think that's a good South Alabama team. I don't know. I mean, maybe South Alabama fans can point me in a different direction, but I still think they have some talent in there to definitely compete in the top tier of the Sun Belt for sure. But James Madison taking care of business at home. They're pretty close to being a wagon. Something you hit your trailer to. I mean, I like it. I like what they're doing there. Let's talk about Dawson's Diner a little bit.
Speaking of wagons, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Utah OSU. Boom. Under 45.5 Friday night was good. Not a sweat. That was free. Okay. Arkansas State minus 105. Classic case of the wrong team is favored. And the market has not caught up Jalen Raynor. Could be looking to get early in on the Arkansas State spread this week. Haven't had a chance to look at it. Dive into that. But Jalen Raynor is an absolute monster. He's a true freshman monster. TCU minus 12.5. Maybe this West Virginia secondary is not as bad as we thought it was. I mean, TCU had opportunities to put this game away, but they messed around. And what happens when you mess around? You find out, right? And they found out on the road, where West Virginia was on the road. TCU at home losing, brutal. Akron minus 2.5. It was a tie ball game with about 3 minutes to go. DJ Irons in Akron, the Zips. They're moving the ball. They're in Buffalo territory, about to get in field goal range. Now, granted, field goals are not automatic with that team. As you Akron friends know, if you watch till the end of the game. DJ Aaron fumbles, gets hurt, lose the ball. You go to overtime. And I don't know who that backup quarterback is for Akron, and I don't expect any of you watching to know. But all you need to know is he's not that guy. He was not ready for the moment. So, unfortunate injury right there. Unfortunate turnover. Bounce the ball. What are you going to do? I'd still take that again. Jacksonville State, I should not have won that bet at all. That was awesome. I'll just tell you, Jacksonville State was down 21-20 with 50 seconds left in the game. And they covered minus 6.5. And they didn't have the ball. Sam Houston State had the ball on their
1 yard line.
Yeah, I mean, just crazy stuff. Iowa, Michigan State under 36.5. I would do that again. I mean, Palmer returned with 3 minutes left in the game to go to put me over. I would do that again. No questions asked. Washington minus 19.5. Put that one out on Twitter. I'm 0-4 on Twitter picks, by the way. I got to step it up on Twitter, man. If y'all want to follow us, the Redshirt Sophomore, or sorry, at the Redshirt Soph, feel free. I mean, follow us. But right now, it might be fade mode for me on my Twitter picks. But I overreacted for sure to the Jaden Delora being out. But I just thought that this line was going to cross 20 and 21. So I was like, I'm going to get in on it early before it crosses there. I thought that there was some value there. It never did for good reason because Nikki K over there kind of gave Washington some trouble. Washington did not look like the wagon we thought that they were. So yeah, so 3-4 weekend for me. Not ideal. Not ideal. I would take back the TCU bets and I would take back the Washington bet. But other than that, trust my gut. I still like that board. Still like that board. Yeah.
I want to talk about the Iowa Michigan State game real quick in terms of frustrating that was that didn't cover. If you want to look at the second half right there, okay, there was right 23 points scored, which for an Iowa Michigan State game is a lot considering the over under was 36, right? None of them were offensive touchdowns. None of them.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that we didn't think about when we thought about the Iowa Michigan State under was what if these offenses are so bad that they're going to cause turnovers and that they're going to lead to points for the defensive side, which is obviously you can't predict turnovers. Obviously, again, we would do that bet 10 times out of 10. It
Yeah.
just sucks that
And
the
it'll hit
bouncing
9
ball was
times for sure. It'll hit 9 times.
that's crazy, man.
I would still
That
hit it. If it was 33.5, I would still hit it.
just looking at the drive chart of the second half is so brutal, man. So brutal.
Yeah.
And
Well,
obviously Cade McNamara goes down. It sounds like it's a pretty serious injury. So obviously hope he's better. Hopefully he's rested. Hopefully he can get back to the season. But I don't know.
absolutely. And we'll get into that. If you're tuning in for the first time, make sure if you like our content, to like the video. I think it's a fair rule. Give us a subscription if you want to hear it. If you don't want to miss our next videos, we come out every Thursday, every Monday. Previews, recaps, questions that you guys have for us on email. You can send those in at the redshirtsophomore@gmail.com. We're gonna preview. Well, we previewed these 9 games. If you want to check those out, I know the week's passed, but you can still check them out. They're on YouTube, each individual game. And we're just gonna go over them, go over our recaps. What did we miss? Right? What did we hit? And what are we looking forward to in the future? All right, you ready to go, CD?
Absolutely.
Talk about USC Colorado. When we previewed this team, I think we nailed it. I think we nailed it. Okay. USC at Colorado. Okay. We knew Colorado was at home. We knew USC's defense was struggling a lot early on. Wow. USC came out guns blazing. I think they're up, 34-7 at one point. But credit Colorado, man. Credit the absolute fight that this team had with their lack of depth. They got after it in the second half, and they actually had a chance. They kept it. They brought it within a touchdown, down 34-7. So
And
credit
I'll
to
say
Drew
this
Sanders.
real
Yeah.
quick. Add to that point. It was 34-7 in the second quarter with 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go. Right. So Colorado could have hung their hats and just, accepted the game and went into halftime 34-7, but they went down and they scored a touchdown with 21 seconds to go. And that gave them some confidence and a chance to make it a game in the second half, which they did.
Yeah, and it was other guys stepping up too. It was other guys stepping up, right? Xavier Weaver ended up playing this game. Travis Hunter, of course, was not playing once again, but Amarian Weaver, 7 receptions, 196 yards and a touchdown. So
Omari Miller. Sorry.
Amari Miller, yeah. Amarian's his full name. But they might have some talent at these skill positions on offense, a little bit deeper than we originally thought that they were going to be. And look, Shedeur Sanders once again impressed me. Now he did have that one pick in the first half. That was not very good, not very good at all. But he did something a little bit different than we've seen him in the past. He ran the football effectively, scampered out of there. Felt like USC wasn't capitalizing maybe as much as they were in some of the early games this season in terms of putting pressure. Of course, they put pressure on him, right? But Shedeur Sanders handled it very well. He came back. I thought he did really, really well. We both had USC winning. We both had Colorado covering, though. any other thoughts on this game and looking forward for both of these teams?
Yeah, I just think in terms of the line was too high, and we kind of called it. And in credit to Colorado for coming back and fighting, but I was never really concerned about USC losing this game. A lot of people are saying, "Oh my gosh, they gave up 41 points. They gave up 27 second half points to Colorado." And to be honest, yes, well, that did happen, and I can't just ignore that. But I do think that first half USC team is the team I choose to believe that that's the team that USC is going to be going forward, right? With Alex Grinch at the helm there, and I thought they were really impressive, really, really impressive going into an environment in Colorado, which you knew was buzzing. You knew they were going to be pissed off after last week's, and you came out and you just punched them right in the face. Obviously, Caleb Williams, sensational as always. Again, it's not that I don't think the offense was the problem at all, right? I mean, they played fantastic. They had 0 fourth quarter points, but that's what besides the point. I do think Marshawn Lloyd, 13 carries only. I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's hard to take the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands, but if you want to talk about like how do you not lose conference games that you shouldn't lose, you run the ball really well in the second half. That's how it happens. And I don't think they did that. And it gave Colorado a chance to come back in the game. And obviously, I know never 101. I get that, for sure. But Marshawn Lloyd, if that offense and that team takes the next step, I think it's going to be through him, right? And the rushing game he can provide. And I think the defense, I mean, they're not going to be elite, right? But this Colorado's a good offense. Obviously, we know it is, right? They put up numbers about just about everybody except Oregon.
But there's things that you
Um,
can do to shut these guys down. And if you're talented enough, you can overcome whatever's going on in Colorado's offense. Like there are ways to shut it down, and you saw it early in the first quarter, right? But what did they run out of steam? What was credit the Colorado coaching staff, man? That's just
yeah,
that that's Sean Lewis, right? From Kent State, is that his name? Sean
yep,
Lewis.
Sean
That's
Lewis.
Sean Lewis out coaching Alex Grinch. But like Grinch, of course, we know USC's had some problems with these last 2 years, even at Oklahoma. I mean, I don't know why that guy still has a job, but hey, maybe he's a good guy. I don't know. Maybe he's a good guy. This is not the
I
Grinch
will say
hate segment, but
no. He'll get his due. I think once they play Washington and Oregon in back-to-back weeks, I'm sure that fan base will be upset, plenty upset with them. But yeah, for USC looking ahead, you got Arizona, right? The status on Jaden Delora is obviously in question, but that backup quarterback did some things against Washington and even Stanford that it's not gonna be an easy test. Obviously at home, which is nice for USC, and then you go to Notre Dame, right? And that's the one I think Notre Dame's had circled, right, in terms of a
oh
game
yeah,
that they think they can really, really win, especially after losing against Ohio State. Notre Dame needs that win to make the playoffs. They really do, especially with a team like Clemson on their schedule. That's not going to be a marquee win like you thought it would have been. USC they need this win. And then you get into Pac-12 play, Utah, Cal, even at Cal, Washington, Oregon, UCLA. Does not get easy for USC. That defense needs to get figured out um, come late October, obviously. And then for Colorado, they get a much needed bye week, right? I believe, or am I mistaken? Oh no, oh no, 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 no. I'm so sorry. They get Arizona State bye week. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out Arizona
yo
State.
yo.
I'm just kidding. Stanford, and then they get Stanford, and then they get their bye week. I'm sorry.
So you get
Um,
3 bye weeks. That's
no, yeah,
actually
but
a
I think
really good schedule dynamic right there for them. I'm not calling Arizona State and Stanford bye weeks, but those are a little bit less physical games that you'll be playing.
it, in a game in a time where they really need to rest up, they're finding out just how long college football season really is, right? That coaching staff, that team, and a team with not a ton of depth, which we talked about. Obviously, wide receiver, they're fine depth wise, but everywhere else, trenches, secondary defense, quarterback, right? It's gonna be nice to maybe get on some teams early and just kind of coast in terms of being. And even that Nebraska game was still a 3-quarter game, and it wasn't late until late in the fourth where they pulled away. Right?
It was a
They're
physical
probably
game
worn out.
too.
A
It
very
was a
physical
physical
game.
game early on.
So I think Colorado, needs a couple, easy games, and then they get their bye week, and then they can reset and gear up for the back half of their schedule. But yeah, the Pac-12, we've talked about it all year. It's a gauntlet. It's a gauntlet for everybody. right? So it's gonna come down to who stays healthy, who's peaking at the right time in October and November.
Utah at Oregon State. Well, when we previewed this game, we talked about it. I said I'm gonna fade Utah one more time, and if it does not work, then I have to get off the Utah. Then I can't be fading Utah for the rest of the year. Fortunately, though, for me, unfortunately for you, who picked Utah to cover and win, uh, the offensive woes caught up to them. They did. So Oregon State team, credit to them defensively, credit to them offensively, taking care of the football. I know DJ had a pick. It's not a great pick, but credit to them. A couple explosive plays helped, push them over the edge. And but that offense is capable of, producing explosive plays. So that's not saying Oregon State shouldn't have won this game. They dominated this game. Nate Johnson, 8 for 23 passing, 101 yards, and a touchdown. That touchdown was late. Late. He probably had about like 80 yards, or he probably had about like 60 yards, late in the fourth quarter before he actually got benched. Bryson Barnes came in. Hope Bryson Barnes is okay. I believe he was hospitalized after he took a hit to the ribs. So he came out. So Nate Johnson currently is the only cornerback that is healthy for this Utah team. And gosh, I don't know. It might be Jaquin Jackson who comes in there and plays Wildcat quarterback if Nate Johnson was to go down. But maybe they get a bye week. Oh gosh, could not have come at a better time. Hopefully,
They need that.
this Utah team gets Cam Rising back after the bye. So dynamically, this defense for Utah I still thought looked good. DJU 204 yards, touchdown to interception. Damian Martinez 65 yards on the ground on 16 carries with a touchdown. Yeah, it was this is Oregon State though all the way. It was 3.5. This line opened up, I believe, at -1.5, moved all the way 3.5. I think the market was right on that. I think both these teams look. Utah should not be hanging their heads. They're 4-1 without Cam Rising up until this point, and with that schedule that they played, that's impressive. That is very impressive. Their defenses looked phenomenal. Oregon State, you love to get these kind of wins at home. Jonathan Smith and the Beavs are going to be pumped about this heading into the rest of the Pac-12 play.
No, I agree. I think a very big bounce back win for Oregon State. I think how nice is it not having to go into, Pullman, Washington, or even going to Utah and having a team come into your environment, right? I think obviously in Corvallis, Oregon State definitely welcomed. Their team was definitely happy to be back at home. Yeah, like you said, I just feel Utah, man. The gas ran out. The amount of games you can win with a very, very bad offense kind of stopped, right? And DJ did enough. Martinez did enough on the ground. The defense obviously was locked in all game. And Oregon State picked up a much needed win, right? Utah, like you said, the bye week is fantastic. Got to get Cam Rising healthy. He gets one game, I guess, to tune up. And it's not to disrespect Cal at all coming off the bye, but it's not USC, it's not Oregon, it's not Washington, right? And that's who three of their teams that they still have left to play. A Utah team that's already played 4 very physical football games has a bye week, and then they have 3 top 10 teams, and then Colorado to close the year. And who knows what Colorado's gonna look like, late November. But yeah, I was a guy that was super high. I just had a gut feeling that Nate Johnson was gonna have, a coming out game and really dominate this game with his legs. And that was not the case at all. 9 carries for 3 yards, 8 for 23 and 100 yards and a touchdown and a bench. Only reason he came back in, like you said, is because quarterback who replaced him got hurt. But yeah, I'm
Good
looking
athlete.
forward. Yeah. He come on. He's a young
That's the only
guy.
thing we could say about this guy. He's a good athlete.
He's a young guy. But yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, Utah, the bye week is huge. It's huge. It would have been so sweet to steal one more game without Cam Rising.
Oh my
It would have been
gosh.
incredible. A 5-0 Utah team without Cam Rising. And then they can really hit the ground running. But you know what? Honestly, sometimes in college football, a loss is just what a team needs, to really, especially an offense, needs to be like, hey, listen, our defense is great, yes, but if we're going to do things in the Pac-12 that we want to do, it's got to come through the offense because that defense is going to show up every week. And especially when you're playing high-powered offenses like you have USC, Oregon, and Washington, I mentioned. you got to score with them if you're going to keep up. And historically, Cam Rising has, obviously, but we'll see if he gets healthy. But yeah, like you said, Oregon State, looking ahead for them. They get Cal, UCLA, and then a couple very winnable games, and then Washington, Oregon to end the season. But happy for DJ. It was a nice bounce back win for him. At home, this team is going to be very, very dangerous. On the road, obviously they can win every game they're playing in. That's how highly I think of this roster. I think you do too. But yeah, I think this team at home is going to be very hard to be messed with. You know.
Texas A&M versus Arkansas in Jerry World. In our previews, we both took A&M to win this game. Hey, look at us. Look at us. But we both took Arkansas to cover. That was not the case. This score right here is 34-22. This it should have been a 4-touchdown game. A&M finished the game on the 1-yard line of Arkansas's. Just ran out the clock. Could have punched another one in there with Le'Veon Moss, who had a fantastic game coming out party. 107 yards.
That's 2 straight weeks. He's looked real good. I'll say that. Against Auburn, I thought he played fantastic.
Yeah, because we've been kind of waiting to see, like, is this going to be a 3-headed monster, or is someone going to really emerge in this A&M backfield? And it's looking like Le'Veon Moss right now. Large. He runs mean. Max Johnson looked pretty decent. 210 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and an interception. That came on the first play. So, okay, I'll preface this. Arkansas's one of their 2 touchdowns came on the first play of the second half, and that was a Max Johnson bubble screen where there was some assignment miscommunication. Right, I don't think people understood who was getting the ball on that side, which is kind of weird because it's the first play. Right, Johnson runs Arkansas's Johnson runs that back for 6. Yeah, and then Arkansas also was in that ball game, and they were feeling pretty good about themselves. But this A&M defense, 7 sacks for the second straight week. That's 14 in the last 2 games since they started SEC play. DJ Durkin's just ramping up the heat, and I like what he's doing. He's moving linebackers around pre-snap, which is like something that he's been meaning to do. He needs to do that. He's flipping the sides. He's putting guys on different sides. He's putting people in different positions. Everyone on the defensive line is absolutely balling out right now. When Anai White is coming off the edge on 3rd down, I mean, fresher than a Subway cold cut combo on a Tuesday. I mean, that's elite. That's an elite defensive line.
And that's what we've talked about for a couple of years now, especially the past 2 years with this A&M team under DJ Durkin and how talented the defensive line is, especially rushing the passer. The problem was downs 1 and 2. They were not stopping the run, right? And so they could not let those elite level athletes really get after the quarterback and affect plays and get stops on, get to 3rd and longs, right? And cause, negative plays and things like that, right? We talked about running the football. I thought Raheem Sanders was going to play and play well. I thought KJ Jefferson was going to run and run well. Their team, now, yes, in college football, we count sack yardage as rushing yards. Regardless, though, 39 carries for 42 yards. That is incredible for A&M. Incredible. Back to you.
Yeah, a lot of the negative plays on 1st down was a huge deal. Now, Arkansas has had a tough time running the ball all year. Doesn't matter who they've been playing against, right? Which is simultaneously like what made me feel good about this game, taking A&M, but also made me nervous because A&M last year we saw that was their problem, right? And look, with McKinley, just having McKinley Jackson there and having good linebacker play, Torian York, the true freshman, right, is making me not hate missing out on Ant Hill a little bit less every week. I don't know if I said that right. I definitely didn't. Grammarly, where you at? Help me out here. But I'm just trying to say that Ant Hill was a huge miss for A&M, right? But Torian York is playing at an insanely high level. He's calling defenses out there as a true freshman. He is disrupting plays. I mean, look, in pass coverage, he's fine, right? But really in this run game is where he's made an absolute impact. He flies to the football, takes on blocks. I mean, he's just not afraid. He's just not afraid. Ezrin Cooper has been making the big time plays. Chris Russell had a pick 6. So linebacker play has been really good this year, which is gigantic to see that. Max Johnson, I thought, played fine too. I thought he played fine. Couple mistakes here or there. Thought he hit the deep ball pretty well. Scripted plays, right? At the beginning of the game. A&M has scored, by the way, on their first two possessions in every single game this season. So on the script, Bobby Petrino is dialing things up for us right now. Dialing things up. Love to see that. And I don't think it's crazy to say that A&M is playing some of the best football in the SEC right now, given what we're seeing across the conference. Now, if you rewind 4 weeks, you would not have said that, right? If you're just looking at like the sample size of the last 3 weeks, you're looking at a team that is 17 sacks, right? They had 20 sacks all of last year. So in the last 3 weeks, 17 sacks, right? They put up 30 in almost every game, except the Auburn game. They put up 27. Uh, I mean, I think things are starting to click together. I hope DJ Durkin stays aggressive on the defensive side of the ball. I think just because you're playing Bama and right, you're playing in these bigger games against better opponents. I don't think that means you just throttle down because I think if you just confuse these offensive lines, because the SEC right now has an offensive line problem. They have an offensive line problem.
Pass blocking for sure, especially Alabama. Especially Alabama. You got to get
Especially
after
Alabama,
Noah.
especially Arkansas. I would put
Auburn.
well, Tennessee was a little bit injured. Auburn, oh yeah, Auburn. I would put in that category. Of course, Vanderbilt. Yeah, I don't know. I think A&M's offensive line's been doing pretty good. I really liked. They were protecting Max Johnson well this week. Now, is Arkansas's pass rush anything to go home about? No, no. But I think I was really impressed with A&M's defense this week. 22 points is misleading, and also special teams. Nye Smith. Oh, what do you know? A big time punt return in a big time moment. Really like kind of stretch this game, put it out of reach. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Now explosive plays are still a problem in the secondary. Arkansas capitalized one. Andrew Armstrong, big touchdown in the fourth quarter, but I really think that there's a couple tweaks here or there, and A&M could take the next step, right, and really become an SEC contender. I mean, we see like LSU scoring at a ridiculous rate right now offensively, but we saw what they did to Jaden Daniels last year, and they just bullied him, and they bullied that offensive line, and they made him confused. They confused him. Granted, that game's on the road later on, and you got plenty of other challenges, including even after Bama this upcoming week, right? Say you even win that game. Say you win that game. After that absolute physical nightmare of a game where you're absolutely banged up, then you got to go to Neyland Stadium the next week in a tough environment, and you're expected to get a win there too. So season's not over for A&M, but it's looking really good. As for Arkansas, you did not want to be 2-3. I would classify this as close to a must-win game as they come. You know, this early in the season, especially for Arkansas. This was like I'm really concerned about this Arkansas team. Really, Luke Haas. I will say this: he went down in that first catch that he had for 14 yards. I don't know how he would have matched up against him this game. I mean, they looked like they were going to feed him early, right? And they just really never went back to the tight ends for the rest of the game. Of course, they're not as elite as Luke Haas. That kid's an absolute monster. So I hope he's all right. I think it was a shoulder or a collarbone injury. We'll see how long it takes for him to get back. But without him on offense, I think they still have some receivers. Arkansas does. But if you're really just relying on the explosive play and you can't run the ball, that is way different than Sam Pittman wants to play football. It's way different. No Kendall Browse to dial in some plays either when you really need him. I just think this is a team that could struggle down the road. This is a team that could struggle. Now, you can just never count this team out because KJ Jefferson is just a dude. He is a dude. But man, I don't know how many other defensive lines you're going to see like this in SEC play. I mean, you're sure Bama's defensive line, Dallas Turner, Jaheim Otis, but he had no time. Like he could not do. Walter Nolan was eating. He was eating. McKinley Jackson, eating. Fidel Diggs, eating. Anai White, eating. It was everyone had a piece. Everyone had a piece when they wanted it to. Shamar Turner, got him. Shamar Stewart had that deflection for the Chris Russell pick. It was everyone on this A&M defensive line that was just getting after. Ezrin Cooper, I think, had a sack too. If not, he was in there. I mean, I this is a fantastic performance. Fantastic performance. Torian York had to have a sack. I mean, this is a fantastic performance for Texas A&M Aggies, and I really do think that there's a chance that this team could turn the corner. And Max Johnson is really capable. If you watch them, stats, they're not blowing your mind. They're not. But guess what? In this Petrino offense, he looked good and poised, and he can scamper when he needs to and make the throws.
I'll say this because I think you hit everything on the nail. But in terms of just adding to your points, when was the last time Texas A&M has been playing really, really sound football on both sides of the ball, all three phases? I'll throw in special teams there too, for multiple weeks in a row.
Bingo.
Right. I haven't really seen that. And that's what gets me so excited because we know the potential's there. We know how talented this roster is. Everybody knows the composite score of A&M is in the top 5. Everybody knows that. But where are the wins? Right. And that's what we've been missing the past 2 years. And we go back to 2020, right? Which with that was last time we've been seeing very consistent football. And that was elite A&M football team that gave everybody that won all their games except obviously to the eventual national champions in Alabama. Last week you played very sound football against Auburn, complimentary football. This week again, 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing, elite defensive performances, special teams touchdown. I mean, that's what you love. That's what you love. That's got you so fired up, and that gives you a chance to win every game on your schedule, right? Especially Bama this week at home. That's going to be a huge game. It's a shame both these teams are coming in with one loss, because I think if A&M was playing at this level against Miami, I think that game turns out a little differently. And I think if Alabama, is peaking at the right time right now, they played a little differently against Texas. Who knows if they played that game again, and there would be a ton more attention on this game. But sometimes that's how A&M likes it. Sometimes that's how they like it, right? The underdog in Kyle Field is a very dangerous spot for teams to come into. So I know you're going to be at the game. We've got a bunch of friends going, friends and family, so it's going to be a heck of an environment. But yeah, as for Arkansas, like you said, October does not get much easier, right? They got Ole Miss, and they got at Alabama, right? But after that, right, you're probably going to be 2-5, but you can really salvage this season, right? With Mississippi State, yes, you got to go to the swamp. Then you get Auburn, FIU, and Missouri to finish off the year. And I could see Auburn going, 5-0. I can see them going 2-3 in those games. It's just going to be up to them and how they want to play. And obviously the health of Raheem Sanders and KJ Jefferson. But no, it's like you said, I'm not quite panicking on Sam Pittman for this year, but I'm definitely, urgency should be the word for Arkansas the next 2 weeks to at least be playing better football on both sides of the ball, and then, really hit the ground running in games that you can and should win.
Florida at Kentucky. In our preview, we went head to head here. You took Kentucky. I took Florida. Yikes. Ray Davis, 280 yards on the ground. Did I know that Ray Davis was going to have 280 yards on the ground? No, I did not know that when I took this game. If you were to tell me that, hold on, I'll pull it up here in just a second. If you were to tell me that Devin Leary was to play as bad as he did, I would have said, oh, yeah. I mean, Florida won by 2 touchdowns? I mean, okay, what do you think Devin Leary did anything exceptional this game? No. And honestly, I thought Graham Mertz was not the reason they lost this game at all. I thought Graham Mertz was fine. He threw that one pick.
Yeah, and that was early in the game. Yeah, it wasn't his fault.
Receivers continually letting Graham Mertz down. And again, we were Graham Mertz's. I'll say we were haters, right? I know people don't like throwing that word around. But the way that we were talking, we were absolutely slamming on this dude. And Graham Mertz is actually playing pretty decent football.
To our defense, it was more so, yes, it was. We've seen Graham Mertz play. We've seen him play at a very poor level for a long time. And yes, that was it. And he's playing a lot better. But we talked about the reasons why Florida was going to struggle offensively was the playmakers. They don't have any. Trevor Etienne, really good player. Nobody else on that offense I feel really, really good with to win consistently. Right? And we've kind of seen that in games they've struggled in on the road.
I like Ricky Pearsall, but I mean,
consistently to be your number one receiver in the SEC is not going to cut
more.
It. Not going to cut it.
More. Yeah,
I'll say this.
Goodness gracious, dude. Devin Leary, 9 for 20 for 69 yards and a touchdown. Dude, and he's played like this all year. Kentucky's played Like this game does not make me feel better about Kentucky. I know they're 5-0. I know they're 5-0. It just it does nothing. Florida has been terrible on the road, and that should have been something that I should have factored in there. Florida's been terrible on the road under Billy Napier. Terrible.
Dude, at some point though, like it just works, right? You look at West Virginia right now, and the way Garrett Green and Nico Mariucci, whoever's playing for them at quarterback, it's the same level as Devin Leary. And obviously, we just because of Devin Leary and how he's played in his career, the expectations were higher, absolutely. But at some point, like it works. You can win a lot of football games in college football if you can play really good defense and run the football exceptionally well, right? Minnesota, just ask Minnesota. They've won 9 games the past 3 years, and at least 9 games just because of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, oh, dude. I mean, so for their first 5 touchdowns for Kentucky ended in a touchdown, and let me tell you, they probably did not pass the ball more than 2 times on any of those possessions because they didn't need to. Because Ray Davis was dominating. Ray Davis is a really good running back. I'll give it to him, of course. But there was, and even like right out of the second half, right out of the gate. And now they made their adjustments in the fourth quarter, right? But at that point, Kentucky could just take their gas off the pedal a little bit. Uh, but right out of that second half, Kentucky just gashed them with the run again. They did nothing to adjust. They did nothing. Billy Napier did nothing. That defensive staff did nothing to adjust. I'm like Graham Mertz. I'm sorry, dude. Like you were not surrounded by the talent that Florida normally gives its quarterbacks. You're not surrounded by that talent anymore. Now that defense did a good job against Tennessee, just clogging up the run, but Tennessee had like 3 guys in the offensive line out. So I thought
And
I
they
was like,
jumped on them
oh,
early.
and they
They
jumped
had
on him early.
a positive game script where the run wasn't really going to be a factor if you jump on a team early. If you jumped on Florida early, right? You go down, you score a touchdown, you don't throw that pick early, right? You get another field goal, and if you're the one that's up 17-3, this is a much, much different game. You go into the road in I wouldn't call it a hostile environment, but a very fired up environment, and you jump on them early. You silence that crowd. A lot different game. Credit to Kentucky though; they knew their game plan and they came out and they executed it very, very well. Like they have an identity, and Florida does not, especially on the road. They do not.
The last 3 games, okay, you're looking at Tennessee. They jumped early. The second half, they got outscored in the second half. Against Charlotte, they only scored 6 points in the second half against Charlotte. Kentucky, they came out of there, and they once again the second half they didn't make the adjustments that they needed to make. Now, granted that their offense moved the ball a little bit better, but defensively they did not make the adjustments that they needed to. So it feels like this is just a matter of getting outcoached these last couple games, just getting outcoached, not doing. Now, granted, the Tennessee game they were dialed up for that first half, but in the second half they got outcoached. If you really, really, really want to look into it, you really want to look into it. So I don't know, man. That I'm still Kentucky. I think opened as a 15.5 point dog ahead of 2 Sanford Stadium, Georgia. That's a fair line. I think. I know we just saw Georgia Auburn. I still think that's a fair line. I
Don't overreact. Do not overreact.
do not
I urge you
overreact.
guys. It's week to week, man. We love teams that are riding lows and teams riding highs. It's gonna come back to equilibrium, right? It's a 12-game season, not a 1-game season, right?
I just and like there's a lot of national media types that are excited about their predictions for Kentucky, saying that they're going to be really really good. And I get it. Like they are probably better than we thought that they were going to be, but also they still have played no one except Florida, and they got them at home, and they ran for 280 yards somehow. I don't explosive plays. I mean, this was domination physically on the offensive and defensive line, and I like that. But even if Kentucky goes and wins 9 games here, like whatever bowl game they're going to go to, I can't help but think I'm going to be fading them in that game because I just I don't
Let's slow our roll here.
SEC guy. I just I'm not seeing really good football in the SEC this year. I'm not seeing it.
Well, let's slow that roll here in terms of going 9-3 for Kentucky, right? We talked about this in a preview of Kentucky, right? Their back half of their schedule is brutal, right? It was key for them to come out 5-0. They needed to do that, and they did. Credit to them, and they kind of blew out everybody except Eastern Kentucky. Whatever, I'll give you one pass. But you go to Georgia, You got a really good Missouri team that's playing good football right now. You got a Tennessee team that seemed to find himself this past week. You go to Mississippi State. You host Alabama. You go to South Carolina. You go to Louisville. Like none of those games, to be honest, I'm sure we'll preview a bunch of them, right? If Kentucky keeps winning and whatever else, but none of those I feel good about picking Kentucky unless things change in the passing game for them, right? Unless that happens with Devin Leary and Baron Brown and some of the other playmakers you have on the offensive football team. You have some playmakers out wide, and they just have not shown up at this half of the year. Whatever the reason is, I don't know the reason. Whatever it is, that has to get fixed if they're gonna, make a push in the second half of the year.
Now, Kentucky they absolutely did what they needed to do to win this football game. I'm going to credit them for that 100%. Credit Mark Stoops. He's 5-0 right now. Awesome. That's great. That's good work
Football
by Mark Stoops.
school,
Right? It's a
football
football school.
school.
So I didn't mean to. I know I'm pooping on Kentucky right now. I'm just trying to. Let's be cautiously optimistic. It is really all I'm trying to say. I know it sounds like I'm pooping on them. Let's just really be cautious here moving forward. I'm not giving up on Florida either necessarily, but man,
I am.
that was a tough game for them. That was a tough game.
I'll add this on Florida. Their outlook on the rest of the year. They give Vanderbilt next week, right? Say what you want about Vanderbilt, right? That's if you're Florida, you should win that game at home. But then a lot of the toughest games on the schedule, or in terms of games that you feel like are winnable, are on the road, right? And that's part of the reason why I was pretty low on this team's ceiling for this year, is because I didn't know how they were going to be on the road, right? At South Carolina. Feels like a winnable game, but not with this Florida team. If this Florida team shows up, or the Florida team that went to Utah, right? That's not a winnable game. At LSU, right? At Missouri. Those should be games you think you could win. And then obviously, Georgia and Florida State are, it's neutral site for one of them, and you host a really good Florida State football team. One last tangent though I have here about neutral site football games. And trust me, I love traditions in the South. I love it. But when we've got two games coming up here in terms of the Red River rivalry right at the Cotton Bowl, and that's the one exception to the rule, I believe. I think that is an awesome game and an awesome environment. But
A
wouldn't
cool
it be
stadium.
nice? Yeah, exactly. And the history of that. But why are they playing in Jacksonville? Right. I get it, like the largest cocktail party. I understand tradition, whatever. But how fun would that be for Georgia to have to go to Florida this year? Right. I mean, that's a totally different game than if it is in Jacksonville, I think, in my opinion. I get it, it's still going to be a really good environment. Um, but yeah, that's just my little tangent here on neutral site games.
Clemson going to the Carrier Dome, laying 6.5, and they got it. We both agree with this pick. We took Clemson to win and Clemson to cover as well in our previews. To recap this game, though, I'm not much really changes in my opinion of either team at all. I think Clemson did what they needed to do offensively. That's all I'll say. They just did what they kind of needed to do. Nothing really more. I wasn't especially like overly impressed with Cade Klubnik. I thought he was fine. I didn't think they run the ball all that effectively. Granted, Syracuse has done well defending the run this season, but we knew like Garrett Trader, like you you can't beat Clemson with just Garrett Trader. You can't do it. Now he played his absolute butt off, right? Played his
He
absolute
always
butt off.
does. He
He
always
always
does.
does. And gosh, he better get in the ice bath this week because he absolutely took a beating. I will say though, I liked Clemson's defensive line for the second straight week. I thought Clemson's defensive line played okay. I thought they played fine.
It's nice to see
Um,
Xavier Thomas getting some production. He had that fumble recovery. He's looked like himself, or at least um part of that 5-star billing he had coming out of high school. It's nice to see that.
yeah. So this was like as a watchable game, it's a pretty mediocre game to watch. Not gonna lie, it just was kind of like death by a thousand stings. It was just like a slow, kind of like squeezing the life out of Syracuse, and I love watching college football regardless of like, the outcome of the game, but I'm not going to say it was definitely not an exhilarating game by any stretch of the imagination. Um, I will say though, Tyler Brown made some big time plays for Clemson. It would be nice to see some receivers. Bill Collins had a big catch. I believe he was like wide open on that one touchdown that he had. It'd be nice to see some of these Clemson receivers, step up, especially as we're getting deeper into ACC play. So yeah, that's really all I got. I don't feel that much differently. I think Clemson is solid. They're a good team. In my books, they're a top 15 team in the country. They just shouldn't be ranked there, right? They haven't done anything to deserve that. And Syracuse, Garrett Trader, it's not sustainable. If he goes down, Syracuse cannot win a football. They will not be able to win a football game the rest of the season if he goes down. And we saw it last year. So he can't do it himself.
Yeah, I think for Syracuse, they needed a fast start to win this game, and they didn't get it. Right, you had the unfortunate fumble where Schrader's head got taken off. Right, obviously credit to Clemson for forcing that fumble, and then Clemson goes out and scores a touchdown, 3-and-out for Syracuse, and then you fumble, and then 2 plays later, Clemson's in the end zone. So again, like that's not a recipe for success. Playing a team much more talented than you are, especially when you're trying to keep your home field advantage an advantage. And when Clemson jumps on you like that, it's hard to do so. Looking forward for Syracuse, like you said, Garrett Trader needs that ice bath right away because it does not get easier. Next two games are road games at UNC. The defensive line is playing pretty well this year, and at FSU, right? Obviously with Jared Verse and others on the D line. So it's gonna be tough for them. I think that they've got some chance to win some games after those for sure. But yeah, they need to keep Garrett Shredder healthy, need to continue to progress balance wise offensively. Like Quinn Allen, I think, is a really good football player, like
Yeah,
their running back,
they
and
don't
he
run
just
him
does
enough.
not. No, and Schrader had 15 rushes, and yep, some of them were
That's
sacks,
your
obviously.
Taj Brooks theory. Just a
Yeah,
good hard
oh my
runner.
god, get him the ball more, man. It's so I think it's so important to relieve some pressure off of your quarterback, especially if it's not an elite quarterback like Caleb Williams. I understand why Marshawn Lloyd's not getting the touches, but for Garrett Schrader, as good as he is, Quint Allen is damn good in his own right, right? So we're besides the point. As for Clemson looking ahead, I'm circling at Miami, I'm circling Notre Dame, and I'm circling UNC. And obviously, I know Clemson fans are circling at South Carolina for some revenge for sure. But I mean, they're gonna be able to fight their way back into the top 20, top 15, and even maybe the top 12 of the AP poll and the college football poll. Um, and the problem is they were 0-2 to start conference play. They got their first conference win, obviously important, but you got some catching up to do, right? And Duke lost this weekend, yes, but it was out of conference loss. So you're still, a full 2 games back behind them. 2.5 games, I guess it is. But yeah, I don't know. Like you said, didn't learn much about it. I think their offense is getting a little bit better every week, but is it going to be enough? I don't know.
Kansas traveling to DKR in our previews. I took Texas to win and cover. You took Texas to win, but Kansas to cover. But something we didn't know until basically kickoff that day was that Jalen Daniels was not going to be available in this game. I will argue, though, that this was absolute annihilation and that it
Yeah.
might not, like Kansas might have put up 28 points, right? They could have maybe covered the 16.5, but this was 2 different tiers of teams, right? This was I mean, defensively, I thought Texas did really well. Kansas in the second quarter scored on a ridiculous fumble play on a triple option where Jason B just got rocked by Jalen Catalon, and then Highshaw scooped it up and scored. So that was Kansas's only points at the second quarter. They came out early and scored on a big explosive play. Jason Bean, nice throw down the field, and you're like, oh, some life. No, 661 total yards for Texas on offense. Wow, that's a
Yep.
that is a stat right there. Jonathan Brooks, 20 carries, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jonathan Brooks is good at football. How about Cedric Baxter? CJ Baxter, 68
Oh,
yards and
oh,
16 carries.
oh, over 4 yards a carry. That good to see him. Good to see
I
him.
think he's kind of established himself as a number 2 back there. I think he's really, really talented. But Jonathan Brooks he's so patient when he runs, man. He's so patient. Like Bijan, so is Roshan in that sense, where he's kind of patient, but Roshan also is just really, really, really physical. I feel like Jonathan Brooks is that physicality, but he also like kind of glides when he's running through holes, running through tackles. He looks smooth. Um, I like Roshan as a player. I think better as a draft prospect. Better. I think he does more, but Jonathan Brooks is really good, and hopefully this is not. And I mentioned on the preview that Kansas's defense have been looking pretty good, and they did get a turnover. Quinn Ewers' first interception of the year, but was it really like we talked about it? They kind of relied on big time turnovers, defensive scoring, and they kind of did last year. And then in the game where they didn't get that, turnover luck, they got blown out. They got blown out. Now, Jalen Daniels not having him in the game is tough, but also this Texas defense, I think, is just really, really good. I think they're just really, really good. I mean, I don't know if they forced any turnovers per se, but or even any sacks for that matter, but just playing lockdown. Just playing lockdown defense. I liked what their secondary did. I think they moved to the ball well. They really shut down. I mean, Kansas kind of ran the ball okay, but they didn't really even try to run all that much because they were down pretty early. So I don't know. What do you think?
To me, this tells me more about Texas than it does about Kansas.
Yes.
Um, I think obviously Jalen Daniels changed this game, obviously, but again, another really, really impressive conference performance from Texas. We talked about it last week with Baylor. That was a prime letdown spot. This week with the Red River rivalry and Oklahoma waiting next week, another prime letdown spot, and they didn't let it happen. And my favorite part about it is this Texas team, right? Under Steve Sarkisian has been known to blow a lead or two, obviously, right? For sure. And this year, this game and this year, that has been totally different. They have been balling out in second halves of games. And it's not because they're sleepwalking through the first part. No, not. They're just finishing very, very strong, right? Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Sorry, 5, 4, like full possessions that they had in the second half. They scored touchdowns on 4 of them, and they drove into the other territory and attempted a field goal. On the fifth one, obviously they missed it, Bird Auburn, whatever. And then the last one they just ran out the clock. So like that's really, really impressive. That's as good as it gets that you can ask for in college football. If you're Texas, Quinn Ewers again played very, very well. 25-35, over 320 yards, a touchdown. Yes, he had one pick, but he also made some plays with his legs. He had that nice scamper, 30-yard touchdown run, which is nice to see. I mean, AD Mitchell, man, is him and Worthy and Whittingham and Sanders and the freshman Cook. How do you guard these guys? And you got Brooks out of the backfield. This is a really, really complete football team. And yes, Oklahoma's defense is much, much improved. And we'll talk about the game when it gets there. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be really awesome. For Kansas, looking forward, obviously, priority number one is to get Jalen Daniels healthy. Whatever happened to him, make sure it doesn't happen again and he can play, right? You got some winnable games coming up. UCF, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Texas Tech, even Kansas State and Cincinnati are all winnable games that they've got remaining on their schedule. Obviously, Oklahoma thrown in there in the middle of that, but for Kansas, you still got to hang your head high, right? You went into Texas, you played a really, really good football team. They played really, really well, and you lost. You didn't cover, whatever, it happens. And you were without your starting quarterback. Now, obviously, that defense, like you said, you're hoping to be a little bit more productive, right? Especially with negative plays or just impact plays in general. I mean, you didn't quite get that. But yeah, moving forward to them, it's going to be Jalen Daniels healthy. If they're healthy, they can play with anybody. If he's not, their defense and running game with Devin Neal has to step up. And they didn't even try to get Neal going, I don't think. I mean, only 8 carries. I get it. It was a blowout in the second half, but I would like to see a little bit more from him. But yeah, credit to Texas. A lot of credit. I feel like every week we're getting on here and saying this is not the Texas of old. This is a different Texas of Steve Sarkisian. Like they're playing complete football right now.
I agree. I will say that Jatavian Sanders injury could be impactful as well. His ankle, he went down in the first quarter. We'll see like his status moving forward. He's been a very impactful game or impactful player, especially in some big games, right? When you kind of need him, he's there, man. When you need him, he's there. But I will say, I mean, Kansas. Another part of why this game was also so dominant too was ball control. I mean, Kansas ran 45 offensive plays. 45. It's that's not a ton, especially when you're trying to come back from a gigantic lead, right? I mean, Texas ran, I mean, if you're just counting Jonathan Brooks runs and Quinn Ewers passes, Texas ran 55 plays. That's it. It's not even including Cedric Baxter, 16 carries, Quinn Ewers, 7 carries, Blues, 4 carries, Wisner's 2, AD Mitchell's 1 carry. I mean, that like Texas just the ball control, they just controlled this game through and through. They did. This is a really good team moving forward. So we got a River rivalry next week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, I'm excited for that game. I'm really excited. Notre Dame at Duke. Golly, this game was pretty awesome. How cool would it have been if I was right about the Duke upset? And guess, let me tell you how close I was. I was 1 yard away from being right.
Or multiple plays. I mean, on that drive in
Yeah.
general, you had a safety blitz or a nickel blitz, and you had Sam Hartman dead to right. And I love Sam Hartman, right? But he is not like Lamar Jackson in the backfield. He is not Caleb Williams in terms of sack avoiding. You can get to him, and the guy whiffed, and I get it, right? That's a hard play to make. You see it all the time, especially in college football, right? With blitzers or free runners just missing quarterbacks. Oh, I know Mike Elko wants that one back, man. That they could have won that game. And
Dude.
obviously with Riley Leonard going down, did not look great. It sounds like it's a high ankle, which is multiple weeks. So you never know. And then yes, they've got, a game or two to get ready, a week or two to get ready for Florida State. But I don't know about Riley Leonard, and we know how important he is. And
Oh,
but
yeah. He is everything to this team. He is everything. I mean, like now as a passer, right? There's a lot that he needs to improve on. He's not shown me this year that he's taken a step forward in that department. But just in terms of like the pure playmaking ability, he just does it. He has it, man. Like he has it. And this, here's what I'll say: I don't really feel a whole lot differently about either of these two teams. I really don't. Uh, Notre Dame, they're missing a couple key pieces on offense, including some receivers, and it showed. I mean, and they really struggled to pass the ball. We said that Mike Elko was going to find ways to stop the run, and he did. Except, of course, that last play, Estime just being Estime, right, and just finding a way to score. A couple broken tackles there. I don't feel differently about either of these two teams. I think Mike Elko is, dude. Remember what I said? Like, now, okay, granted, you kind of disagree with him, right? You thought he should have gone for that fourth down on 4th and 3 or fourth, whatever that was, late in the game, potentially put it away. I don't know, man. I thought Mike Elko coached a heck of a game, a heck of
he
a
did.
game
He did.
where you gave your team a chance. Notre Dame 4th and 16, up one with like a minute left go in the game, and of course Sam Hartman makes a play and scrambles out of there, and wins a ball game for them. Of course, I'm gonna give huge credit to Duke there, and I'm not gonna say that Notre Dame was terrible. I'm not gonna say it because I think Duke's defense, they're just a veteran defense who went on the road, right? Sam Hartman knows how Sam Hartman's been on the road in the ACC before, right? I mean, he knows it's pretty tough. He knows it's tough. Uh, it's not exactly like the rowdiest crowd, but they got up for that. They got up for that in Durham, and I think Gosh, dude, Mike Elko is just doing such a freaking good job with his team right now. He's doing so good. And it stinks that Riley Leonard is hurt. And I don't know that how quickly he can get back. But man, if he gets back quick enough, man, I think this Duke team, and remember, by the way, this is a loss Notre Dame. They're still undefeated in the ACC. So this does not mean that Duke can't go make something happen, right? They could totally still do that. But that requires Riley Leonard to be healthy.
Absolutely. Yeah, right to Mitchell Evans, man. That guy's a baller. Notre Dame's got two really good tight ends there with him and Holden stays. You say what you want about the receiving core, as young as they are, as Chris Tyree's a former running back, playing receiver for him. They got some good tight ends, and it's obviously nice for Sam Hartman to have some big body guys that you could just throw it to, even when they're covered. Even if you make a bad, inaccurate pass, they can still catch the ball. But yeah, survive and advance for Notre Dame. This was huge after a very physical, heartbreaking loss against Ohio State to blow a 13-0 lead to Duke and be down and be a 4th and 17 or was it 4th and 16, and then to get the ball on your own 5-yard line, go 95 yards. Really impressive. Really, really impressive. Good to see them get a bounce back. It doesn't get easier for them. Right. They go to Louisville, who's playing good football right now with Jack Plummer there. And then you got USC. And then you got your bye week and you can reset for a pretty light back half of the schedule, concerning what you thought it was going to be coming into the year with Pitt and Wake Forest not playing well, Stanford as bad as we thought they were going to be, maybe even worse, and Clemson, having a down year so far. But this was Notre Dame needed this one to stay in the college football playoff race, and they got it. And I think Duke's going to continue once Riley Leonard gets back. They're going to continue to play really good football and continue to prove that this was a really good win for Notre Dame. It's hard fought, right, on the road. The spread was 5.5 for a reason, right? It was supposed to be down to the wire, and it was. Obviously, you and I picked Duke. I think I do it again. I think they got off to a rough first half. It was really weird first half. Notre Dame missed some things, but so did Duke, right? And obviously some turnovers there with Riley Leonard. But yeah, it's that was a good game. That was a really, really good game.
It is really weird though. Like Notre Dame is getting into opponent territory. They're just not finding ways to score points. If they kind of change that down the road, I don't know that I would pick Duke again in this game, to be honest.
Which is weird because a team like that struggles in the red zone, obviously the red zone is hard to score in, right? Or to get into the red zone, whatever it is, right? But typically, like factors that play into that, right? That should equal a recipe for a good red zone team is elite line, check, right? Big bodied receivers, check. Good running game, check, and a very experienced quarterback that doesn't typically turn the ball over, or make poor decisions, check with Sam Hartman. So, like you said, what's going on? I don't know exactly what's going on there.
I will say this, and once again, how often do I talk about how good of a coach Mike Elko is? I do it all the time. But let's just say, okay, the Aldrich estimate, 30-yard run. Let's just take that away, right? Let's take that away. All right. And then let's take away. I won't even take away Jeremiah Love's 34-yard scamper. Notre Dame averaged 3 point, quick math, 3.3.5 yards per carry the rest of the game. You take away the Jeremiah Love 34-yard run, they averaged 2.9 yards per carry. And this is an elite offensive line. Goodness gracious, Mike Elko, you have outdone yourself again. You have outdone yourself again. I'm excited to keep watching this Duke team. Even if I'm excited to see, I'm not excited to watch Duke without Riley Leonard, of course. But if he is out,
let's see it, Mike Elko, man. Let's see it. Let's see it.
I mean, he might just be dialing up. I mean, this might be if they start winning ball games without Mike or without Riley Leonard, this might be the greatest coaching job we've ever seen at the collegiate level. I mean, just unbelievable.
You talk about right. Obviously, Mike Elko has been a pretty hot name thrown around, and I just pray he doesn't go to Michigan State because he's so much better than that. But besides the
Of
point,
course.
no hate to Michigan State, but I hope he runs back at least
That
one
was
more year.
definitely hate the Michigan State, by the way. That was definitely hate. And viewers, if you're watching for us for the first time, CD is in fact Minnesota Gopher, so he knows
Yeah,
Big Ten football.
with the divisions going away, I don't want him anywhere near us. But regardless, I hope he runs it back one more year with Riley Leonard, right? Because I think you get one more year for him to make key moves in the offseason, like a couple transfer guys, and then continue to develop and get a scheme in there with another year of Riley Leonard, who's got another offseason, to continue to work, to continue to get better. I mean, watch out, man. That's going to be really, really fun. Really, really fun. And obviously, Duke should be, counting every minute as a blessing with Mike Elko there because of how fantastic he is. But also, Notre Dame won the football game. Marcus Freeman, you did it. You didn't choke, after a big game. You're playing good football right now. You won against a really good football team. And if you're Duke, man, oh, this one sucks. And it sucked even worse. Right? Those last 45 seconds of the game were terrible. And it's the hard part is it's not going to just equate to one loss. It could be multiple without Riley Leonard there.
Georgia at Auburn. CD and I, as we previewed this game, we said this is our easiest play. It's Georgia and Georgia to cover. We said that. We did not account for the Carson Beck first SEC road start. We did not account for the crazy rivalry. And we Georgia does not. I should have taken Auburn first half spread. I really should have, because Georgia just does not get off to like good starts the
Did,
entire
did
season.
anybody account for Peyton Thorne and those legs, man? He was booking on one of those plays. I didn't think he had it in him. I was like, he turned the corner and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a nice 15-yard gain. And then boom, he would just long stride in. I thought
Yeah,
that was Robbie Ashford for a second. I was like, who is this, man?
yeah. So, but again, 88 yards passing for the Auburn offense. How they scored 20 points, I'll just never know. Uh, can't wait for the Carson Beck dislikers to come at me as a guy who's been defending Carson Beck this entire season, preseason. Uh, can't wait for Carson Beck. Oh, he had the interception. Oh, what are we what are we what are we talking about here? In the biggest moment on the road when he needed to get it done, he got it done. Now he also had Brock Bowers. He did have Brock Bowers.
With the game, him down 7, right? With 5 minutes to go in the third, they had 3 more drives that mattered. They went touchdown, field goal, touchdown.
Boom, boom, boom. When it matters, Carson Beck is there. Now, if you want to make the argument that, like, I don't know what's going on in these first quarters, like why Carson Beck can't figure it out early in these games. I don't know what it is. I don't know. All I know is that he's figuring it out as the game goes on, and he's not losing confidence. He's still slinging it. You still see the arm talent. They still have talent in this Georgia team. I will say the defense, though, uh, it was good. It was good, but like,
It
was it
got put in bad situations. I,
was it
I think. I mean, you look at on
yeah.
Auburn's scoring drives, were any of their touchdown drives more than 50 yards?
No.
No, no, they weren't. It was short fields that got. And that's a credit to Auburn's defense, obviously. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Georgia's defense going forward.
Okay. Yeah, and they'll get healthier too. They'll get healthier. This team's currently 15.5 point favorites at home against Kentucky, which I'm not afraid to take Georgia. We might be previewing that game. I'll still have to do more research, but I'm not afraid to take Georgia in the points. They're 0-5 against the spread this year, by the way, for anyone who's not been following along with this Georgia team. not exactly meeting expectations, but they're 5-0, undefeated in SEC, and they play in the SEC East, which by the way is 3 undefeated teams. People who didn't know that, so which is pretty wild to me. Pretty wild to me. Auburn, I still think this is a valiant effort, of course, but I think the rivalry and the home factor, like weird stuff happens in Jordan Hare. Weird stuff
Well,
happens in Jordan Hare. It like just
that's what I was saying. I was asking a friend who was at the game, and I was like, what is it about Jordan Hare? Because it's not the biggest, right? Auburn certainly isn't the best SEC team, year to year. Right? What is it about Jordan Hare that's just so hard to play in? That stuff happens, and they were like, they don't know. They just don't know. But something happens, and we sometimes we account for it, and sometimes we don't. And to be honest, more times than not, it plays a huge factor when good teams come in there. There's something about it, especially when you jump on them early, right? The one thing Georgia could not do was go down early, and they went down 10-0, and then Jordan Hare is a bitch to deal with, a bitch. So, and Carson Peck learned that the hard way. But credit to him, like you said, responded. The whole team responded. It's not the worst thing in the world for Georgia to have some adversity on the road. It's not. I don't think at all, especially sometimes in a win, right? Especially if you're Kirby Smart. Obviously, you would love for your team to play fantastic every week and win by 40, right? And have your third strings in by halftime. But that's not the reality of the SEC. He knows that. And sometimes he knows that the way to get a message through to your team that wasn't being received beforehand is through a tough win, right? Where you have to really grind it out. And then they're like, okay, maybe this week I'm going to do something different in practice. Maybe we have to continue to look at the small things because it really does matter. And we just because we're Georgia doesn't mean we can go out there and roll everybody on our schedule.
absolutely. I say for Auburn moving forward, I think a lot of other SEC coaches are kind of looking at these performances by Auburn and kind of just telling the team, "Hey, let's not turn the ball over and let's walk out of here with a win."
Oh,
I
come
think some
on,
coach
come on.
I think some coaching staffs are they might be looking at this team saying they're not there yet. And year one, Hugh Freeze, yeah, sure they weren't going to be right. They weren't going to be there, right? We maybe expected them to be a little bit better, but they weren't going to be there, right? Hey, I said this last week, but good luck, Auburn. Good luck with the rest of your SEC schedule.
I'm gonna take the other path here for our Auburn fans that are still hopeful, in Hugh Freeze to turn around this year. I think you saw some things in this game that you liked, right? Obviously, your defense is good enough to keep you in every game. Okay, hear me out.
All
And
right, I'm hearing.
looking at your schedule, right? It lines up about as good as it can get in terms of maximizing your wins, right? You can cut your losses with at LSU, fine, but you host Ole Miss, right? You host Mississippi State, you go to Vanderbilt, right? And you go to a very struggling Arkansas team right now. Obviously, in New Mexico State at home should be win. And then you host Alabama, which who knows what can happen in the Iron Bowl, Jordan Hare. I'm not giving up on this team. I'm not giving up on my over pick for Auburn to win, to win over 6.5 games because they just got to win a couple games in the SEC West moving forward in a year where the SEC West, other than honestly Bama and A&M right now, they already played A&M, they already played Georgia on their schedule. Nobody else really scares you, and everybody else has a ton of holes that have been exploited already, and it was just September, right? Well, real quick, I want to ask you a question about Georgia's next game in Kentucky. What's the difference between Kentucky right now and Auburn? I really don't see a ton of difference. You're looking
I
at teams that have
Hey,
really good relying on the running game, right? You've got transfer quarterbacks that's not living up to the bill. And if this game was played in Sanford Stadium, it's a much different football game. We all know that. And next week is played in Sanford Stadium for Kentucky to go to Georgia. And obviously, Kentucky's 5-0 and whatever else, but like you said, it might be very tempting to get in early on that game for next week.
It's very tempting. I see your point. LSU at Ole Miss. CD and I, when we previewed this game, we both took LSU in the points. Lamb, we said. Lamb. And in the fourth quarter, it was looking like we might be okay. But then the further we got into the fourth quarter, we thought maybe it's not going to be okay. A lot of scoring. Touchdown for Ole Miss. Missed 2-point conversion. Touchdown for LSU. Touchdown Ole Miss. Touchdown Ole Miss. Get the 2-point conversion. A lot of scoring in this game. We knew that was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to be over 100 total points scored in the game. We knew that LSU was going to find theirs, and we knew that LSU's defense, their secondary specifically, was lacking in terms of depth because they lost some guys, and they haven't looked all that great this year. So, what are your thoughts on this game? I know you got some good eyes on it.
Yeah, I think over 1,300 yards in an SEC West game. You had some old heads, right, in the SEC that just had their heart attack, right, or guys rolling over in their graves because this is not the SEC football that they're used to, right? And I know you're an SEC guy, but it's a different college football game when you've got a guy like Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, when you've got a guy like Jaden Daniels, a guy who I have been as hard on as anybody on it. He played really, really well. Now, I will say the one thing that finally caught up to him is running straight up and down. He is fully erect, running the football, and he got laid out. I'm sure if you're watching that game, I'm sure if you're following college football, you've seen that hit on your Twitter feed now or in a highlight reel somewhere. But besides the point, he played a fantastic game. He 10 times out of 10, he should win that football game, right? If you're LSU with the resources they have, the talent they have, you thought in the front seven, doesn't matter what that secondary, you can avoid that if you're putting up 49 points. If you're throwing for 414, 4 touchdowns, you ran for another 220. And yeah, like you said, I was critical of the running backs. Logan Diggs played fantastic. He's been a real revelation for them. And
He's averaging
a
six and
guy
a half
that,
yards per carry on the year, by the way.
yeah, he's doing great from Notre Dame transfer. If you're unfamiliar, it's great to see BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., finally breaking out, living up that 5-star billing he has. Him and Malik Neighbors are really, really dangerous on the outside. But that defense, man, it's going to be some changes there. It won't happen. I don't know how soon it's going to be, but staff-wise for sure, and obviously player-wise. And
No
we
sacks.
talk, yeah, with that O line, with that D line, and look at what night and day if you're Ole Miss, right? What happened last week? How Alabama just shut you down, right, for 4 quarters. That D line picked you apart, and kind of ran straight through you. 5 sacks, 10 tackles for loss. This week, totally different. You got finally Quinshon Judkins looking healthy. You ran the ball really, really well. 33 carries, 177 yards, and a touchdown. Ulysses Bentley did well when he was in, absolutely. Jackson Dart on the ground has played well all year, and he continued that way. It was good to see Trey Harris healthy, Caden Preek scoring healthy. Zachary Franklin finally got a catch. He was in there a good amount. Yeah, this Ole Miss team, I was definitely wrong about them in terms of they're playing really good football right now offensively, and they can play with anybody left on their schedule, I think.
I agree. It's going to be interesting. LSU, of course, they dropped 3-2, so inherently out of the playoff race, which is a bummer for my futures bets on LSU. But Ole Miss, man, with one loss to Bama in the SEC, look, Bama's got some tough games ahead of them. It's not over for Ole Miss in the SEC West. It is an uphill battle, of course, because Alabama remains undefeated, and of course, Ole Miss is going. They host A&M, which is a big deal. It's a huge deal. Jimbo and Texas A&M on the road, completely different ball game than when they're at home, 100%. And then I believe they also host Mississippi State. I could be wrong about that. But last time I checked, I believe. Oh,
It's at Mississippi State, by the way.
it's at Mississippi State. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Mississippi State has not looked as strong as maybe Guys like me were hoping that they'd be this year. So the outlook is still strong. I think even for both these teams, man. I still like LSU as a team. I don't know. I can't not think that they're a good team. Just the defense, man, just really, really struggling. It's gonna be. I know they host A&M this year, but if they can't find a way to stop Texas A&M's offense, and A&M finds a way to get pressure on Jaden Daniels, that could be an interesting game. Of course, Bama. It's gonna be like the unstoppable force meeting an immovable object with the Bama defense there. So I'm excited for those games. I'm excited for
And
those
vice
games.
versa in terms of Bama's passing offense and LSU's
Well, it's
passing
gonna be like
defense.
who's gonna stink less.
Yeah,
Like which gives? What's given? The
something's gotta
terrible
give.
pass defense or the terrible pass offense?
I'll say this though, in terms of I did take LSU's under. I was definitely lower on LSU than other people were. I know you're pretty high on them. When obviously they have the talent to do it, and they could turn all around in an instant and run the table and make the SEC championship and win it and whatever else, and they'll probably be in the college football playoffs. But that secondary is a real issue, and I guess we kind of glossed over it because it's LSU, it's DBU. We assumed that was going to be playing at an elite level,
Right.
and that they can just plug and play transfers, and they took so many. And our thinking was, and even me who was less high on them was like, one of them's gonna stick, right? You throw a bunch of piece of paper at the wall, one of them's gonna stick, and I don't know, man. Zy Alexander's had his moments. Deuce Chestnut's obviously been exposed. Denver Harris, hasn't put it all together yet, and others back there, which is a real concern for LSU. And obviously, it doesn't get easier. Like you talked about, I mean, at Missouri is not an easy game at all. Missouri is going to be fired up for that game. That's 5-0 Missouri. Just so you know, or maybe 4-0 if they were. Oh yeah, 5-0, 5-0 Missouri, and obviously Auburn, Army, middle of the year. That's kind of crazy. You still have to play Bama, Florida, A&M. You know how it is in the SEC. So obviously for LSU, you like to be 4-1, and you have some positives for sure to build on. Jaden Daniels is playing out of his mind, and if they were 5-0 right now, he would be right there with Michael Penix in terms of the Heisman conversation, and deservingly so. But it's unfortunate that he hasn't gotten the help from his defense like you were hoping he would get, and like usual LSU quarterbacks do get.
Our upset meter, uh, maybe it was a little bit out of order this week. This is our order that we had this week. We thought Tennessee going playing South Carolina. We thought that was steaming. Tennessee handled pass rush proved too much there. South Carolina, I still thought Spencer Rattler was fine. Just couldn't get it together. Right. The Iowa game, we called it sweating. That actually I think was spot on. It was really sweaty until the Cooper DeJean punt return touchdown in the fourth quarter with about 3 minutes to go left in the game. That was just classic. I still can't believe over 36 and a half hit. That's ridiculous. I still
Well,
can't believe
and
it.
Cade McNamara got hurt early, and he hasn't played great all year. And I hope he recovers okay. It sounds like a pretty serious injury, but Deacon Hill is not a very good quarterback at
No.
this point in his career. He's still a young player. Obviously, he was a four-star recruit. I mean, he's got time to get it all together, and he doesn't get a ton of help, obviously, from Iowa's passing game or offense coordinator or whatever it may be. But yeah, I do think I was never quite worried. I was so weird when they're playing close games. I never feel like they're gonna lose them. I just never get worried about them because they just play such good football and sound football that yeah, and obviously they're winning by 10 and the overhit, which is crazy, like we talked about.
Which is stupid. Dawson's Diner letting us down Iowa just like that. Uh, what's funny is that like I don't know what Brian Ferentz's deal is or whatever. I know they put up like 26 points this week, but like he did not do anything to really help his quota there. That was the defense putting in the legwork there, scoring points and special teams. The Bama game, they took care of business. I mean, any other comments on that game? Or I mean,
Yeah, they continue to look good, right? They better. No,
And they
Rowe was
continue.
super efficient. They're running the ball fine. He did good himself in the running game. That O line is continuing to get better. Obviously, that defense, other than a little bit parts in the second quarter, I mean they're pretty darn good. I think we knew that. And Caleb Downs got his first pick, and he's playing really good football. But yeah, I did this. They're getting better, and I think if they can take some lumps, they took their lumps early, and if they can survive the SEC West schedule and Tennessee coming in town in a couple weeks, them in Georgia, it's going to be a really, really interesting game. I think Bama's going to be peaking at the end of the year. Can they make it there? I don't know, but they're going to be peaking, I think.
Yeah. And then if you were to say that we were most wrong about something, I would say that we were more wrong about the Tennessee game than we were about the Washington game. I know it was a 1-touchdown game. Arizona scored a touchdown late to make it a 1-touchdown game. I mean, Washington still outgained Arizona 474 to 342. This offense still moved the ball. Felt like at a really good rate. They were up 14-0 early. Thought that they might run away with it. Kind of let Arizona hang around. Of course, they were on the road. Fafita, though, 232 yards and 27 for 39 passing, 3 touchdowns. He was pretty good. I think Arizona fans have something to be really excited about. We love Jane Delora for the pure
Yeah.
entertainment factor, but Arizona fans, you got to be pretty happy about that. The Fafita performing like that or at home. Look to see what he can do in the future. I don't know how long Jane Delora is going to be out, but certainly something to monitor. Certainly something to monitor. Michael Penix, I know he didn't throw for a touchdown, but 30 for 40 for 363. I mean, I thought he was pretty good. Now, it wasn't like an absolute domination like we thought it was. Again, road Pac-12 game. Now, being on the road at Michigan State didn't really affect him. It didn't really phase him, but I don't know, man. I don't really have a whole lot of opinions changing about Wisconsin after that or Washington after that game, but I do feel better about Arizona after their absolute almost blunder against Stanford. So I'll say that we
Yeah.
were most wrong about Tennessee. Washington's kind of right there. Alabama, we were pretty spot on, and Iowa, I think we were pretty spot on.
Yeah, I think in terms of Washington, I think it was nice for them. We've talked about it in a couple times this show in terms of sometimes a close win is a good thing for teams, especially elite teams, that can play down to competition. Obviously, Washington's been playing otherworldly so far this year. They've looked like probably the number 1 or 2 team in the country. And they've got Oregon in 2 weeks. So I think having some bitter taste in your mouth, coming off that close game against Arizona is good for them to go in their bye week and really be hungry and really come out to play against Oregon. Not that they needed any more motivation, not that they needed anything else to get up for that game, but I do think it helps. It can't hurt, and it doesn't make me worried for that game. It doesn't make me worried for Washington in general. I don't think Arizona quite exposed anything that can, be the downfall of Washington moving forward. But yeah, credit Washington or credit Arizona, Jedd Fisch, Arizona, and Noah Fafita for sticking it out and giving Washington, the best run they've had all year. It's a really good Washington team. So happy for Arizona.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for tuning into the Redshirt Sophomore podcast. We really appreciate you guys' support. It's been awesome. Awesome. We're loving this college football season. We love what we're doing. You guys can let us know what you guys like, what you guys don't like. Make sure if you like our content, like the video. It's as simple as that. Like the content, like the video, right? Give us a subscription if you want to keep up to date. Put those notifications on every Monday, every Thursday. Previews and recaps of the college football week. Thanks again, guys. CD, anything?
No, looking forward to week 6. Let us know in the comments if you've got some games you want us to preview. Send us an email, send us a comment, DM on Twitter. However you want to communicate with us, we're always open to hearing from you guys. We love hearing from you guys. And we'll talk about your teams if you want, next week.
Alrighty. And we will see you guys in the next one.